Humans are motivated in a variety of ways, many according to circumstances. As we venture further and further to the future, what forces will begin to motivate us into doing what we want to do? This was a question I asked when I introduced my final project for college art class. Not to brag, but after the response and the honor of one of my pieces having a fixed place in the college, I felt it worthy to share my artist statement on this platform and spark some conversation. No pun intended. The two pieces beside each other were made on 32 by 40 paper, using graphite, charcoal, and soft pastels. Its message is threefold: the inner conflict of adapting to a more hyperactive, stimulating world, how desires are becoming an attractive force behind our actions, and lastly, in the second drawing, a hypothetical world where the desires of people are utilized for the common good. The thesis was influenced by 19th century philosopher Charles Fourie. Fourie believed that the natural passions of human beings, if properly channeled, would result in social harmony. As a quick confession, these drawings were based on a world-building project that I, the writer, has crafted called Epoch of Harmony. A project that's based on Fourier's ideas. I wish to extrapolate from that project ideas that could be thought-provoking in the real world. Drawing 1, Civilization, shows a person conflicted by the societal direction and the motivations that society is bringing forth. The torso is fluid and dynamic, symbolizing the modern world. In Modernity, that philosopher Zygmunt Bauman called liquid modernity. It's a metaphor to describe the condition of constant mobility and change he sees in relationships, identities, and global economics within contemporary society. Progress in science has made us more connected across the world. The very nature of the internet and the airplane has brought us closer together and exposed us to new views. It has made work more efficient and its outcomes more abundant, even making us more subjective than objective in our values. We are no longer confined to the circumstances of our locality. We are nomads traversing across many planes of experience. Our inclination is less focused on what threatens us and more on what stimulates us, a multitude of stimulants competing for our attention, rather than with force. I like to call this meta fan service. Some would attribute this to society becoming decadent or hedonistic. But the problem is not our society focusing on attraction, but our lack of understanding it. The head is an amalgamation of sharp edges and conflicting shapes. It's a style inspired by Futurism, a 20th century art movement that, among other things, emphasizes violence and conflict. The head, particularly its psyche, is conflicted by this new theater of art design. It's an anathema never seen in human history. Since ancient times, human beings were motivated by survival, and often with brute force, to get what they want. But now, especially in first world countries, where there is an abundance of information and material comfort, we don't have to rely on force, but charm and the promise of satisfaction. Now that humans have made it this way, in a dialectical sense, we are striving to coexist within a material world that is fluid, subjective, and stimulating. Liquid modernity has brought forth within humans stronger motivations to attract us, called passions. Depicted in the green, orange, and indigo spaces, these can be social or sensual, but all are more of an influence on us than ever. What's left is us utilizing those passions for good use. Such, in brief, is the secret working of the passions, Fourie writes. They are all good, if they are correctly employed. Those which produce evil are comparable to the bad grain which grows when the soil and weather are poor. The fault does not lie in the germinating seed, but in the circumstances that thwarted its growth and corrupted its fruit." End quote. The horns protruding from the head represents the misdirection of the passions. This misdirection stems from us repressing them and not acknowledging their influence, which leads us astray. Every passion that is suffocated, says Fourie, produces a counter-passion, which is as malignant as the natural passion would have been benign. End quote. The misdirection in question is having our passions reserved for idleness. For millennia, it was the norm that pleasure was reserved outside of work. It created a narrative that's still upheld today. We must escape work so we can enjoy our pleasures in idleness. Fourie, in one paragraph, provides an antidote to this confusion. Until now, Politics and morality had failed in their attempts to make men love work. Wage earners and the entire lower class are becoming more and more indolent. Sunday's idleness is being compounded with Monday's idleness. Men work without enthusiasm, slowly, and with loathing. Aside from slavery, the only means by which society can force men to work is to make them fear starvation and punishment. Yet, if God has destined us to work, He shouldn't have to use violent means. How can we believe He is not able to employ a nobler device, an enticement capable of transforming work into pleasure? He wishes to guide His universe and His creations by attraction alone. To attach us to agricultural and manufacturing work, He has devised a system of industrial attraction. Once this system is put in practice, it will endow manufacturing and farming tasks with a host of charms. It may even make work more alluring than the festivals, balls, and spectacles of today. In other words, the common people will derive so much pleasure and stimulation from work in the social state that they will refuse to leave their jobs to attend the balls and spectacles scheduled during work periods. End quote. Drawing 2, the Turbulon, depicts a hypothetical scenario where work and play are one and the same, via the principles of industrial attraction. Turbulon means whirl or whirlwind, and is the name of Fourier's ideal community. It suggests the constant restless movement by which communities find the means of satisfying all their passions. The drawing shows a style seen in the torso. It shows the validity of society, but more importantly, it shows the validity of people. Having recognized their innermost passions, they are utilizing useful functions, according to a diversity of arrangements, fulfilling industrial attraction. Humanity in this context has understood how to best align people's passions into useful functions. We can see this unfold today because of mental health awareness, the sexual revolution, and skills becoming universally available, whereas in past times, subjects like that were taboo and reserved for the affluent. The inspiration behind this scene is the relationship bees have with flowers. Flowers are colored because they attract birds, bees, and other pollinators. The bee in its symbolism means industry and cooperation. Together, they form the allegory of industrial attraction. They flutter from one vocation, one skill, one grouping to the next according to their passions. Their work is physically and emotionally uplifting. They display that in their trades, the friends they form, and their outcome is bliss. As Fourie puts it, attraction is proportional to destiny.